Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program of Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 18:30 hours to 20 hours. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and President of the Guyana Teachers Union. Comrade McDonald, because of duties of national interest, could not have been able to host this program tonight. And therefore, I want to tender an apology for her not being able to host this program tonight. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I will be hosting the program tonight. You know, we have always indicated to you before we give you the topic to advise that this program, the topics are derived from the input of viewers from all parts of this country, every region of this country, every ministry in this country, and other agencies and organizations. We have a wide viewership on this program. And therefore, we thought it fit at all times that for us to be able to come up and to deal with a topic, there is need for us to be able to receive and to have discussions with our viewers before we structure our program and be able to come up with the topic. Therefore, our topic for tonight would be new discoveries. Let me repeat, new discoveries. And so this topic, based on that discussion and the content therein, would point in the direction of what these new discoveries are. And so our program tonight would deal with a number of areas. You know, normally we would say to you that we are going to deal with education matters, health matters, general issues, regional development. Because of the topic, new discoveries, we have so put all those together, and the structure, so to speak, is going to be itemized. And so each item would speak to a number of subtopics or sub-items, so to speak. And so that would bring out the concept, the topic of new discoveries. You know, the education system is in serious crisis. The health system is in serious crisis. As a matter of fact, and as a covering comment from this program, this entire country, as it relates to the management, is in serious crisis. And the level of accountability would have been thrown through the window, and there is no respect at any level, so to speak, for the rule of law, the constitution of this country, and in the municipalities and local government areas, total disrespect for the bylaws that exist. And so that is why we speak to the issue of new discoveries. And so we are going to these are things that would have been brought to the attention of this program. And as normal, we will say that these are all allegations still to be proven. The Essequibo Technical Institute is in serious crisis. The management of that institution is down to zero. The management and organization of the dormitory facilities and the students who operate or are resident of that accommodation are in crisis. And so it was brought to the attention of this program that because of the mismanagement of that organization, rather the technical institute, and maybe across this country, Essequibo Technical Institute, it is alleged, has an enrollment of 45 students. Can you imagine an institution that was set up in a region not only to facilitate technical education at that level for the students of Region 2, but parts of Region 3, Region 7, Region 1. And the enrollment. That was brought to the attention of this program, and so this program is saying that it is brought to the attention of this program, and we treat that as an allegation made that there are only 45 registered students of that institution. How are we working these technical programs in that institution? And so there is that at this stage, a management crisis, and where arrangements, this program is bringing it out so that when it would have happened at a particular time, you would know that the wrong persons who were not qualified to be appointed principal and deputy principal would have been appointed principal and deputy principal. The arrangements are now in place. And before the lists of vacancies would have been published, persons already know who would be the principal and who would be the deputy principal. By the way, there is a gentleman who would have been performing the duties as deputy principal for a number of years. And 2 years ago, when he concluded what is now equivalent to the trained teacher certificate, he was happy, joyful, as though he received a degree. But he, based on all allegations made, is woefully and inadequately qualified for that position. But because of his association and because of him being able to have that willingness to bring down people at the institution, and as old people would say, talk name, he is there. But he's a misfit. there are further allegations that at that same institute, that is senior personnel would have allowed continuously the female students of that institution to go to the office where the senior personnel is occupying, sit at the desk, the table, the chair of that, the desk of that personnel, utilizing the computer, allowing these students, female students, to do all sorts of unreasonable, unacceptable things in an office. Undesirable behavior. And you can't blame the students for that. They were encouraged to go to the office of a senior personnel of that institution to so display this undesirable behavior. You know, there's a deputy chief education officer, technical. They say he has a doctorate. I don't believe that any person can obtain a doctorate in 6 weeks or 5 weeks. And he is not fit for that position. But he has been titled with the position of Deputy Chief Education Officer Technical. But from the date of his appointment to now, every single institution that he is responsible for, every program that he is responsible for, they would have all been on a decline and total failure. So the question is, who do we have to manage the technical program at these technical institutions and our secondary school? Let us be bold on this program, because the allegations came to this program that members of staff of the electrical department of the Essequibo Technical Institute are engaged in work at the home of a newly politically appointed person who once served some time and was a total failure at the town council and would be a double failure in the position he's now placed in that political position. And if you look at the letterhead of the Anna Regina Town Council, you would be amazed to see what is stated there based on the name of the mayor, the deputy mayor, and the town clerk. As we speak, check the letterhead. And if you go to the regional administration and you check their letterhead, you would also see who is the chairman, who is the deputy, the vice chairman, and who is the RU. And if you make that comparison, you would see that there's a common name in two of those positions. As a result of that, there are allegations also of misuse of the vehicle from the Anna Regina Town Council and the regional administration. Now, this program point out that any chairperson of any region, any deputy chairperson or vice chairperson, they are given an authorized driver and vehicle. And they are not supposed to drive state vehicles. They are not supposed to do that. It is happening in Region 2. And because we said early on there is total disrespect for the rule of law, this program was reliably informed that this gentleman spends more time out of his office doing political work, but let this program advise that he's paid by the people of this country, the state. But if you are not fit, and he's totally a misfit, because he came from the Essequibo Technical Institute, he was a total misfit. He went to the Anna Regina Town Council, double total misfit. He is at the regional administration, and that is triple misfit. So can you imagine what is happening? So this program, having made mention of what is happening, the indiscipline therein of this senior personnel at the Essequibo Technical, and this is continuous. And thanks to the Guyana Teachers Union for allowing him to have been represented and to be in a fortunate position. But we close on that issue and we come to the national sports that concluded recently. That activity is a money-making activity, allegations, for some of these regional education officers. And at the national level, I'll come back to this region just now. At the national level, since this program or these championships are organized by the Allied Arts Department section or whatever you call it by the Ministry of Education, taking it away from the Guyana Teachers Union, which did an excellent job over the years since the Allied Arts Department and the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Education took that over. It is a total disaster, as was these last championships that concluded a few days ago. Now, when these students arrive from the different regions, if you were so organized, when these students arrive from the different regions, in Region 3, and mind you, they listed and the CEO listed the schools that would have been available. And when these athletes came from the various regions to go to these schools, you cannot blame the head teacher of these schools, nor the regional education officer and the officers. I'm not going to touch on the regional administration. They have a part to play. But it was a total failure because there was no level of preparedness to receive our athletes, budding athletes. But the minister, in her closing remarks, hostile as she's always is her closing remarks would have given the impression and indication that she was at a political rally. And nothing that she said had any kind of motivation for our athletes, but colorful and all these kinds of things. What is the link between their participation and their total mental, physical, social, emotional development? What is the relationship with them moving into the different districts to go back, and there's a formation between the school and the Ministry of Youth Sports, excuse me, Youth Sports and Culture, and the wider community to promote those athletes who would have advanced. These are things that you say at a closing ceremony, but you do not go there to preach politics to our young minds. But you see, when you do not belong to education, you are not a classroom teacher or education officer. And I'm going to come to some of them who are now placed in the classrooms and who are appointed administratively and are now contractors. So there was no level of preparedness as it relates to the National Athletics Championships. These championships are very respectable. But since the Ministry of Education took it upon itself to manage it, it is a total disaster. And it cannot improve until and unless the full input of the Ghana Teachers Union is there. You know, in Region 2, a certain gentleman who claims to be an allied arts person is physical education teacher of a particular secondary school. Total failure also. He has done damage to this region as it relates to the organization of the district team. But these are political persons. But let them know they might be political, but they belong to a political party, but they are not politically oriented. Difference between that. Big difference between that. So there's need for an investigation because the athletes complain bitterly about the quality of food and the time they receive their meals. Quality of meals and the time they receive their meals. And in some region, it was brought to the attention of this program. There was what is known for snacks, a fruit basket for the athletes. At no time, 3 regions that are collaborating among themselves spoke about fruit baskets, and the athletes never received them. But in the allocation of funds, the breakdown as it relates to refreshment and meals for these athletes, things would have been listed here. Now, this program is asking the Office of the Auditor General, that is very quiet and silent at this time, to do an investigation into the wasteful spending of state money, the people's money, and to recognize that you can only conclude that it is not only waste, but it is going into the pockets of persons organizing these activities, producing and making the budgets at the regional level. Areas of these different regions, you have to be able to ask them questions. And when you confront some of these redos as it relates to that budget, then you would see what would happen. But that is it as it relates to the national athletics, these championships. You know, we come to the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education also has declined in its management over the past years. The minister as it is not fit for that position. The PS is being misdirected and taking instructions without following financial regulations. The PS is the accounting officer. No minister is subject to any audit query or to go to the Public Accounts Committee meeting. No regional chairman or vice chairman would go there. So REOs and PSs, you are the accounting officer. You decide whether you have integrity or you decide whether you are going to go down. Has been the worst of its kind by taking instructions from regional chairpersons who do not in any way or in any form understand the financial system like the ministers. And so the Ministry of Education, the Chief Education Officer, who this program would have always said would have been pitchforked into the position, is doing the worst of its job. The worst Chief Education Officer that the Ministry of Education, this country, would have ever had up to this day. Despite this fact that this program would have been speaking about it, this Chief Education Officer that we have in this country does not understand the difference between a memo and a letter. But we are not going to waste time about that because he would have wasted his time since the date of his appointment to see you. And he continues to waste time like the other D CEOs, the A CEOs, Redos. They are a waste of time. They are a total waste of time. And you know, the Central Ministry of Education, especially the Human Resource Management Unit, headed by a human resource manager. That unit is responsible for very many of our teachers not being able to have full benefits when they come off, because they are a set of people headed by a human resource manager who would fail to respond to requests of the community, of the public, and our teachers who would have retired, for them to have their NIS contributions been meaningfully extracted and submitted to NIS. So when they would have arrived at the age of 60, they would have the benefit. But this human resource manager that is there might be responsible for them not getting their full benefits or no benefit. But when you have these long retired persons in the system thinking that they know it all and thinking that whichever government is in place, because they can speak the language at the particular time, would continue to be employed. These are not the persons to serve in public offices in this country. And taxpayers, you need to rise up and allow your voices to be heard and condemn in a very special way, very forcefully, the inadequacy, inconsistency of the performance of the human resource manager and the entire staff of that unit of the Ministry of Education. We talk about indiscipline in schools. And this program would have been reliably informed that a very serious matter, an incident involving a close relative of one of these senior education personnel, may be a deputy chief education officer, was swept under the carpet. If you do that, you would continue to allow indiscipline to surface in the education system, as is happening now. Many of our students encounter difficulties at home and in their community. And you do not expect our teachers and our head teachers to do miracle in these schools, because there has been a school's welfare system that would have been set up to allow these situations to be addressed. But in many cases, like in Region 2, recently for the Mashramani celebrations and for the nationals, the school's welfare officers, all of them allegedly being contractors and busy with their contracts, busy with catering, and some of these head teachers, maybe one of the head teacher who believes in the One Guyana system, and that particular secondary school is poorly managed, where students are now fighting, so to speak, with our teachers because of that particular head teacher, the One Guyana head teacher, is more out of school doing catering and other contracts. And so the indiscipline in our schools, how much do you expect our teachers to do when they have to teach? And every day you list additional records for them. And so the school welfare system in Region 2 particularly would have failed. Look at the situation of that student that passed away at Abramsville Secondary School. What did the school's welfare system do to help that student? Nothing. And this program is of the opinion that if you want to hold anybody first for accounting for that, hold the school's welfare officer. But you cannot do that. You know why? They are all political persons. And they are failing the system. And the allegation of this particular person being the head of the school's welfare system, being more a contractor and a supplier of goods and services, meals and refreshments, supported by other officers, and not supervising the education system. And so chief education officer or the school's welfare system, who is heading that system in Georgetown, there's work to be done because taxpayers' money, state money is being spent to pay those persons. How long will the system continue to fail? Failing our cohorts in the system. Recently, there was this list of vacancies published by the Teaching Service Commission. And our teachers are now left at a disadvantage as it relates to the criteria as set out. And this program make it known because this program did an investigation and would have found out, and I want the teachers of this country to know, would have found out at no point in time was the Ministry of Education or did the Ministry of Education had any discussion, discourse, or contact with the union that represents teachers in this country, the Guyana Teachers Union, to come up with those criteria. It is normal, it is customary that from the time of listing the schools that have vacancies for these senior positions, that the Guyana Teachers Union would have been in customary. That is out of the way. And so the Guyana Teachers Union, this program investigated and found out, would only know certain things when it is published. Like when the vacancy list would have been published, that there and then they recognize the criteria as set out. And when this program did further investigation as it relates to the point system before now, that there is a great disadvantage now to our teachers. Why? Because the Ministry of Education would have been totally disrespectful to the Ghana Teachers Union. And our teachers, this program would want to say, would want to suggest and suspect that it would have been set like this because it is payback time. And let this program say to you, based on what we heard from every region, that before persons would have applied for these positions, they would have been told to apply because they are going to be appointed because of payback time. What were their involvement during the elections campaign? This is what is happening with the education system in this country. It is not purely professional as it ought to be. And that is why the indiscipline among our cohorts, our students, are rising each day. Recently, a particular secondary school in the Georgetown district, they discover, and let me use the term advisedly, tons and tons of arms and ammunitions. Let us storm it that. Weapons and all these kinds of things, different weapons, scissors and these kinds of things. You know why these things are happening? It is because of a failed education system. And remember, we said that the minister is a misfit. The CEO, all the DCUs, all the ACUs, they are all misfits. The Redos, and some of these Redos, and they are trampling on some of these DOs who want to perform. But we are coming to school grants also. And I'm going to point to the circular that speaks to school grants and the exploitation by some of these head teachers. So because of that, our teachers, when the time of appointment would come, there's a strong suspicion that there are going to be discrepancies and there are going to be areas in which there are going to be serious supersession. But if teachers, let us say to you this program, your best card to play at that time when that preliminary list is published. Engage your union, the Guyana Teachers Union. And you know, this program would have been doing its investigation and would have found out that our teachers, for some reason or the other, whether you were told not to pay up your union dues, the time is coming when you would recognize the importance of your union representing you. And don't sit back idly by and say that the union is not doing for you. The union can only do for you if you get yourself involved, you pay up your union dues, you attend meetings, and you involve in the activities. So the suspicion is that that list of appointment would be very, very flawed by the Teaching Service Commission. This is a program, so this program is saying that. And so the GTU is in a state of readiness to receive the teachers. CPC, you know, 2023 was a disastrous year as it relates to CPC and at graduation. If you know the list of persons that graduated at the time of graduation, where they were, far remote, some of them from this earth, some in different parts of this country, enclosed, so to speak. Some of them never went to training college, but they all graduated. 2023, find out it. This program did its investigation again. And this program made mention some time ago that there was a walk-in system into teachers training college this academic year. A walk-in system into the teachers training college CPC this year. What this walk-in program means. And the circular came out from the chief education officer when you would have concluded what was stated there, that once you are in the private or public schools, whether qualify or not, by a particular date you present yourself to these training institutions, these branches of CPC and the center at Turkine to be registered to pursue the program, nursery, primary, secondary. What is this system turned into? So when these persons would have concluded their course of studies, whether pass or fail, they would all graduate. And they would all come out with an associate degree in education equivalent to a trained teacher certificate. And when they go into the classrooms, our children at the nursery, primary, and secondary school are going to be made to suffer. And our adequately qualified and trained teachers who were there would become frustrated. Our head teachers would become frustrated. But you know, some of these head teachers that were politically and administratively appointed and are getting contracts to build fence and what have you. And in the same school that one was administratively appointed, having the 10-day-a-month worker taking advantage of parents and students, not saying anything because they are all politically affiliated and because they are all getting contracts. Don't ask the question. Somebody is asking. Don't ask the question. This program would be bold enough to call the name of that teacher because the teacher is not adequately qualified to be appointed one a teacher. And this person, because of the association with a certain religious leader who is a minister of government, would have been appointed administratively, not fit for the position, and is doing badly, so to speak, at the school. So we make that link as it relates to the teachers. This program made mention of a particular teacher that came from Region 3. And this teacher is receiving full salary but still not placed in a school in Region 2, attending the Anna Regina branch of CPC. This program would have found out that information came to this program. Information also said that this same teacher is not adequately qualified to go into teachers training college. But again, it was a walk-in system for teachers training college. So that is the system that is operating. Billions of dollars are expended in schools, in regions for education. But when these things are brought to the attention of those in authority, there is a level of defense while the truth is staring them in their faces. The facts staring them in their faces. And they are told to defend. Redos, don't be told to defend. Be professional. But you know, many of you were politically appointed December, not last year, the year before. Region 2 Redo was politically appointed and not adequately qualified or fit. And from then to now would have made a mess of the paint, so to speak. Every day, or even up to yesterday, right in the eyes of the Department of Education where Redo sits, there was a fight among students of one of those nearby secondary school, where the school's welfare officer, apparently he might not have been in office then, busy with contracts, busy with catering, busy with supplying goods and services. And the other one busy with making arrangements for music set and public address system. And also catering. And they are paid to do that work. In their backyard, in their eyes. It happened yesterday at one of those secondary schools nearby to where the office is. The regional education officer, Region 2, is far remote from any level of management. And it was brought to the attention of this program some time ago that there's a particular district education officer who is junior to the many of the DOs there, but they sit quietly because this gentleman who was pitchforked to the Department of Education is now managing the Department of Education, giving instructions to the Redo. But all of them belong to the same political party. And so it is happening. While some of these DOs want to see things happen in Region 2, they are misled by this particular DO who is far junior to them. You see, these things happen because they have the wrong Redos in the system. They have the wrong Redos in the system. And so I move away from that to deal with school grants. It was brought to the attention of this program that REDOs across this country and DEOs and some head teachers are directed the teachers how to spend their grants. They are directing the teachers to which business places to go to. And in some cases, there is a nursery school head teacher in Region 2 that this program would have always brought to the attention of the Department of Education of the many infractions of this head teacher, and they keep quiet. Is getting bills and receipts from associated business persons, and when you go to that particular store where these receipts would come from, that this store is not selling these items. But the head teacher of that particular nursery school would ensure these things happen. Where is the DEO nursery? Where is the regional education officer? You cannot expect the REO to go down to do that. The REO has 5 programs to do. And some of you do not understand the scope of work of an REO. This program said today, some time ago, that it was the same head teacher who absent herself from the last week of school in the academic year, the last academic year, 2024-25. Nothing came out of that. It was this program who brought it to the attention of the Department of Education that in the first week of school for this term, this Easter term 2026, that the same head teacher was not in school during the first week. And yet the Department of Education sits idly by and allow this head teacher to do what she wants to do. There's going to come a time on this program when this program would be bold enough, because this program has enough of evidence to call out the name of that head teacher, and would do so at the right and appropriate time. But let us step back a little. Early on, we spoke about appointments. Because you would recall on this program indicated to you that when there was that list of vacancies for DEOs, DEO 1 to be appointed DEO 2, that in Region 2, that there was a DEO 1 who boasted before even sending in her application that she has a connection, blood connection at the public service. I'll get it just now, please. Just now I'll get it. Commission, Public Service Commission, a blood relative, and that her appointment is sealed. When the results came out, when the appointment list came out, what was said then became a reality. So this program is making mention of that to make another link to say that when the list of appointees would have been made by the Teaching Service Commission, some undesirables, so to speak, would be appointed. And that is not bringing down any of the teachers. This program loves all public servants, all teachers, but is concerned when they are discriminated against. Is very much concerned when they are discriminated against. So we spoke early on about the billions of dollars. This program not was only reliably informed, but checked on it. Not going to call the schools, but there are 4 secondary schools in Region 2, 10 primary schools in Region 2, and 11 nursery schools in Region 2 that are infested by bats. And our teachers have been complaining, our parents have been complaining, and our learners are made to suffer. Yet the Department of Education, headed by the regional education officer, pays no attention to this situation. Had it been a situation where a budget would have been worked out for catering and all these kinds of things, meals and traveling and accommodation, where there would have been a slice of the bread for that, the Redo would have been quick to work that out. But this program is not advocating certain things. But this program is telling parents, you have an opportunity to correct it. You know what you have to do. The evidence is there. And because these teachers communicate with this program is not going to make mention of the names of these schools. Because during the last protests of the Guyana Teachers Union, when our teachers were there, this program was reliably informed that a team was sent to a particular primary school to investigate and to make recommendations, not in favor of the teacher, but would have caused him to be either stripped or transferred. And the DO that headed that team was not part of it. But this program is not going to say what became of that DO thereafter. This is discrimination. This is thing. And the Redo, why don't you not go to the school and find out? Why are you setting up these people, but you have the wrong DUs? You have the wrong DUs. And so we come to the situation of the Cottonfield Secondary School. Parents are concerned of the slow pace of work at that school. From reliable sources, this school is 3 months behind schedule. And not only that, when this program investigated, the person who signed this contract allegations that a senior government functionary is really and truly the person that directed the contract and is the contract person. Well, let me differentiate between a contract person and a contractor. The contractor signs the contract, but a contract person is the person who would benefit from the contract. And it is a senior government functionary. It is time for the Auditor General to stop playing games. And you see, the Office of the Auditor General was so bold, was so active, double active, as we would always say, during the period of the collation. If you use an extra grain of sugar, that was stated in the audit report, but there are tons and tons of all these things missing, and you hear nothing about it. You hear nothing about it. Now, recently, maybe sometime this week, persons from Region 3 called to say that there was a very sour situation at the West Demerara Regional Hospital. And that situation would have been that vehicles exiting the compound all would have been stopped. Whether private or higher, they didn't say that. And they were concerned. And when one of the drivers asked what they were stopped for, they were told that items would have been missing, and among the items would have been wheelchairs. And so they were searching these vehicles for wheelchairs. If this is not a joke for the year at West Demerara Regional Hospital, but you know, this program said to you that there are three health administrators, hospital administrators, three in Region 3. In Region 2, you have an administrator at the Lima Regional Hospital. At Saudi, you have one. But we are going to come to talk about that. And so they are searching for that. But when drugs and medical supplies would have exited from West Demerara Hospital, told to this program, allegations, there's no search on these vehicles. Whether the items disappear from that hospital, no search of these vehicles. But lo and behold, they are searching these vehicles for wheelchairs. Can you imagine what is happening in the health system? Now, recently, items came to public hospitals, allegations, and that a sewing machine or sewing machines disappear, cannot be accounted for. And when this program said some time ago that there was a fire, and there's this quietness on this fire, no investigation by the police, no report by the fire service. Why is it this hospital administrator was not called in and charged for arson? You are having fire in a big place like that, and the hospital administrator is left scot-free. No report from the fire service, no investigation by the police, no investigation by the regional health officer. Where are we going in this country? This program spoke to the issue of persons who are employed at the Lima Regional Hospital, all woefully inadequately qualified. None would have scratched the ground, so to speak, as it relates to any level of qualification, would have been trained 3 to 6 weeks and are appointed. But here, this program was told that every section there is in the hospital, there is a person contracted to provide these employees. That was told. So let's say the laundry, as an example, would need 40 persons. And don't be surprised by numbers, 40 persons. Those persons are employed by one contractor. That was brought to this program. It is left for the Auditor General to make that comparison between that spending therein, that staff details therein, the appropriation therein, and the report at the end of the year. So whether they are contracted by a private contractor as per section, the public is concerned because it is taxpayers' money, state money, that you have their employee. Again, this program was told a pharmacy assistant that is dispensing drugs and medical supplies to our patients that would have gone there to see the doctors or are out of the hospital based on some illness, sickness. And the doctors and some of the nurses are complaining that this person does not know anything of that level of dispensation. But yet, and this program is saying that we have the names of those persons. And it is only time when we would call the name. But yet you have this person there dispensing wrong medication to persons, double medication to persons. And it was alleged that this same person is removing drugs and medical supplies from therein and distributing to close relatives and friends in the community in which this person resides. It was also brought to the attention of this program that on a daily basis, there is where they have to stop the vehicles. That vehicles of employees or state vehicles that are there would remove items for special health care employees, and there's no check at the gate. Goods and services, kitchen, what you call it, dietary items, and nothing is being investigated here. Free pass at Lima Cottage Hospital. Some of the staff members from Saudi, public hospital Saudi, came from there to Lima Regional Hospital. Yet, there was reduced patient load at Saudi public hospital, Saudi. But there are more persons now employed when there was no Lima Regional Hospital. So can you imagine the unaccountable staff details there might be? And can you imagine that when they go back to Parliament for supplemental budget, under employment costs, there's need for questions to be asked. There's need for questions to be asked as it relates to that kind of thing. Let us touch now, let us on this program touch on something. There is no clear indication as yet as it relates to an accident that occurred at Riverstone sometime last year. And in a matter of 24 hours, there are allegations that the commandant, 11 of his kind, a Muslim religious leader of his kind, a Hindu religious leader of his kind, and a Christian religious leader of his kind visited the home of the deceased person. Now, this program is not against that kind of thing. What this program is concerned about is that it is very selective on the part of the commandant of Region 2. Within 24 hours to do that. And when more things of this kind, or even at a higher degree, would occur, he would not ensure that he do the same thing. There's no comparison between what he did there and other persons. But what counseling those same, and they are also religious leaders that went with him there, as well as all those Broncos people of his like, and even him, they need guidance. They are all poor in their work. They are all poor, but all of them are political persons. All of them. The commandant, all of the Broncos, and all the religious leaders. But they are going to protect people. But this program is going to advise those who are disadvantaged to seek the right advice from the right legal minds. The commandant should speak to the issue or tell the public a number of things. One, was that person a licensed driver? Two, if that person was not a licensed driver, did that person have another person sitting to guide? And the third thing is that if that person was a licensed driver, who issued that driver's license? Why are they covering up these things and plastering other persons who can't help themselves? We have to stop these discriminatory things in this country. Not because somebody would take you somewhere and give you a meal or give you something to drink, make you feel happy, and they would sit idly by and talk about things and people, and you would target people. It cannot happen because this program is going to come out to seek to represent people. It is not going to happen in Region 2 or any other region in this country. You know, we talk about all these indiscipline and all these things in school. This program was reliably informed that at a particular place in Adventure, business place, there is a certain private room that would accommodate a particular contractor, and further, it was alleged that school, secondary school students whether male or female, not set to this program, would find themselves there engaging in activities undesirable. That is what the commandant should go and find out this building, which is this building. But we don't know on this program because these are all allegations. But if he is an intellectual, and this is not casting aspersions on the commandant, because he takes sides. Don't worry with anybody. See, this program is saying that. This program is now talking about tint. Tint, T-I-N-T. That is it, tint. The date is drawing near. And like when they were stopping for tint, and they were saluting the businessmen, the police, heavily tinted vehicles. But that again, that entire situation, what you call the motor vehicle and road traffic, the tint story here, that is totally flawed. It is leaving room for all who are affiliated, friends, families, and favorites to have their vehicles tinted. Right in the street that I'm living, 2 houses away, there's a police corporal, heavily tinted vehicle, all his windscreen. I'm looking for the date. Commandant, take note. I'm going to supply that list on this program. I'm not going to bring it by your office because you alone would see that. But when we talk it on this program, the world would see. And we would see how that sort of thing there is discriminatory. That entire act that was presented there, what you call it, the act of, I can't, this is not the one I have. Very discriminatory. Now, recently, on this program, what I've always spoke to the issue of illegal and unauthorized mechanical workshops in residential area, and there is nothing being done by the Environmental Protection Agency. You know, early on in this year, after there was that appropriation of the budget, this program said to the general public, the funds that would have been allocated for work by the Environmental Protection Agency, mentioning salaries, mentioning a number of things, number of line items. What are these people spending the money to do? And there was an article, a letter, so to speak, recently that points to the failure of the Environmental Protection Agency not doing its work. All state money is being spent there on that agency, is spent on them going on excursions. And right now, as we speak, vehicles are at a particular business place, eating high-level dinner, state money being spent, and they would spend a number of days in the region. Going back, I don't know, well, not at me. The program don't know what are the reports going there. This program also brought it to the attention that at a particular workshop therein, there is illegal electrical connection. GPL is aware, and GPL sits idly by. The loss production unit, whatever you call it, they are all compromised. And when you settle issues to the disadvantage of those other consumers, people having, what you call it, the residential meter, but are consuming at a industrial level and the consumer, where you call it, loss production unit is doing nothing, then it's cause of concern. The NIS in this region is also compromised because when you go there, the business persons would enter, the staff would speak to them and have the pensioners there stand up and wait for hours. When you go to GRA, they are granted that, and GRA would grant people business registration without any due process, finding out what business are these people doing, what is the impact on the environment. And some people apply for certain businesses, and when they go, they open other businesses. And GRA sits idly by and getting taxpayers' money for doing nothing, discriminating, full in their pockets, and having all these illegal rum shops in different communities, disturbing the peace of people across this country. And nothing is being done. The Ministry of Labor, you should go to business places and see how many persons are there not receiving basic salaries, underpaid, working long hours. The condition of work is not to maximum or to its standard. And yet you have these departments of labor in the different regions not doing anything. And these ministers have a way of being very rude, so to speak, when these things are put to them. Listen to them in parliament when questions are asked. You think they own this country? Or they pay themselves? But they are paid by taxpayers. They are paid by taxpayers. Money spent in this country. It is taxpayers' money, is the people's money. This program would continue every Wednesday night from 18:30 to 20 hours. And again, we look forward to those persons who submit to us ideas and things that are happening in the different communities so that this program can bring it out. At this stage, we want to say thank you to the viewers, and we trust that you are able to receive what this program would have delivered, and not only to receive, but to sort it out. And not only to sort it out, but as an extension, to share the ideas with other persons and to share your ideas so that this program can build on it. Once again, thank you very much. Good night, and may God bless you.